All right, here's my front drive shaft right here. I just started the 4 bolts. You can see I had a mark on the flange for the front axle as well as the drive shaft flange so that I could put it exactly where it was. These are 15 millimeter head bolts. I have blue Loctite on them. And to the best of my knowledge, it looks like they get the torque spec on these OEM flange bolts for the front drive shaft is 81 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna hit them with the gun a little bit and then torque them up. Okay, front drive shaft flange right here, torqued to 81 foot-pounds all the way around. I just put a little pry bar in there so the U-joint couldn't turn and went around and did all 4 of them, once again with blue Loctite. So the drive shaft's all set. Okay, the torque spec for the Rubicon sway bar end links on the axle side is 75 foot-pounds. It's an 18 millimeter head bolt and an 18 millimeter nut. I'm gonna torque that up on both sides to 75 foot-pounds. Okay, in regards to the axle nut right here, okay, so in the past I've looked this up and it said the torque spec was 100 foot-pounds. And I had used that torque for a while, and then I noticed that when I was down at Winrock, one of these nuts came loose. And Mike just says, hey man, hit it with the gun. So Mike hit these with the gun when we assembled the axle down in Cooter's garage. And I just, for the hell of it, put my torque wrench on it just to see if we had like at least 125, and we do. So they're definitely both all of 125 foot-pounds on the unit bearings on the axle flange nuts. Okay, shock absorbers, the lower bolts that go onto the axle side. Here's my Fox 2.0 shocks. Spec on them 56 foot-pounds. I'm gonna go 60 foot-pounds on these. 18 millimeter head bolt, 18 millimeter nut. Okay, both shock absorber bolts down at the axle side are torqued to 60 foot-pounds. All right, in regards to the ABS clamp, I guess you would call it, it's a bracket that goes underneath the nut right here at the ball joint delete. This is the driver's side. So last evening, this thing was crashing into the C-gussets. I used some needle nose pliers, put a nice twist in that. I don't see it being a problem anymore. That's the quickest, easiest way. You can see just a slight twist in that bracket so that there's no longer any collision right there in the C-gusset when the max steering stopper hits the lower C. Max travel, very good. All right, what I have here is my actuator plug. This is the plug that plugs in right here in that new OEM piece that I bought that actually activates the solenoid. I'm gonna be putting some pipe sealant on the piece that this axle tube vent fits over. You can't really access it as well now because it's inside of the truss on the other side. This is the front side. I'll pan around and show you what it looks like on the other side. And then I have one more plug right back here. This is the plunger switch plug right here. I'm gonna clean this all up with electrical contact cleaner. And then after I do the axle tube vent, I will plug both of these in and making sure that I install the locks on them. You can see the lock right there, that red lock. Nice and clean now. Obviously the electrical contact cleaner evaporates nicely. We'll just let that dry. Really cleaned them out good. Okay, you can see right inside there, that's the fitting. It's a barbed fitting. The axle tube vent slips over that. In the past, I've used silicone. When you can get at it, you can even put a hose clamp on it. In this case, I'm gonna put some pipe sealant around it. It dries, it'll be a nice little adhesive, and then slip the hose on that. So I did check with a pipe cleaner inside it, make sure it was clear all the way through into the axle tube. All right, that hose just slipped on over it nicely. That'll dry up and I should have a good connection there. Okay, I just want to show you that the plunger switch is plugged in. You hear it click, and then you can see that red tab. You push it in. The vent's done, and the locker actuator plug right up there. A nice little click. It goes in easy, as long as everything's clean. All right, great time while I can access everything easy. You can see I got a tiny little hole in the boot, but basically just greased up the drag link on the pitman arm, as well as the steering knuckle. And then I used my needle attachment, and I got some grease on each into the CV joints on the RCV axle shafts on both sides. So all that's left is the tie rod. When the tie rod goes in, which will be pretty soon, then we'll grease those grease fittings as well. Okay, this is the driver's side caliper adapter bracket. And just took my time to get a wire brush. I pulled the pad guides out, so clean that up nice with a wire brush. We'll put those new clips in, those brake pad clips, and we'll get this thing ready for install. You can see I pulled the guides out too. I'm going to lubricate these. Get a lot more lubrication inside there. I had just done the rears, so now I'm doing the fronts and used AutoZone's lifetime warranty on the pads. Brought my old pads in, which weren't in bad shape, and grabbed 2 new ones. New set for the front. Okay. Nice look at the new clips for the brakes. They fit in, and you just always need to remember that the little clip right here goes to the outside. So as long as you put the clips to the outside, and also if you look at it, you can see that the lip there's one low lip and one high lip, and as long as you put the low lip to the low piece on the caliper adapter bracket, you'll have no problem. And since I have this bracket right here out, I think it'll be really easy just to goop these up with the brake grease. Okay, the clips are all lubricated. Pulled the pins out, lubricated them. I got great flex on them. Everything is good here on the driver's side. All right, put some anti-seize on the hub, got the rotor on. I'm gonna bring that adapter bracket over and get that bolted up. And that just makes it much, much easier to put the pads on each side. Then I'll compress the caliper and mount the caliper on with the new pads. All right, a good look at the adapter bracket. All mounted up. 21 millimeter head bolts. You can see them back there down at the bottom. Torque to 125 foot-pounds. So now we'll put the new pads on the rotor. Then we'll compress the piston and we'll get the caliper mounted up to the adapter bracket. Okay, these are the Duralast Gold. I'm gonna put some lubricant on the ends and then on the back of the pads, but these are really good and they're going on here shortly. Really the best way to put the pads on. It's just nice and easy. Same way I did the Jeep Compass. Everything looks really good there. The squealer goes to the inside. Now we'll compress the piston and get that caliper on there. Usually I can just compress that piston with my large channel locks. But in this case, I used a big welder's clamp. I put that 1/4-inch piece of aluminum across the piston, and with the big C-clamp, I was able to just compress it nicely, so no worries. That's all set, it's compressed. I'm gonna lubricate it, and we'll get that on the adapter bracket. Okay, a little look at the ABS sensor. It's coming through the knuckle. Normally it would go under the dust shield. I removed mine, and you can see it tied into the unit bearing with a little bit of lithium grease on the O-ring that goes in there. You can see it just follows the clips. Driver's side is done. Okay, this is the passenger side. You can see I got the ABS sensor in, same thing. I've just got the wire kind of hanging where it's gonna go so it can mate up with the brake line. Took the C-clamp, pressed the piston in. Now I'm gonna go wire brush the adapter bracket and put the new pad pins in. So, and then we'll lubricate the guides as well. You can see I got the rotor on. It's all gooped up. I got my spacer ring on right here so that when the rim goes on, it fits the hub perfectly, and I end up with a hub-centric rim instead of lug-centric. So still working on the brake pads, the new pads, and then I will be attaching the tie rod. All right, adapter bracket with the old pins. Gonna knock those out, wire brush them, take these pins out, lubricate them, put the new pins in, get it all greased up. This is for the passenger side. You can see these actually look a little dry. So remember, in the rear I had one that seized up, and I was able to heat it with the torch. So I'm gonna goop these up really good with this compound right here, this brake grease. Move these pins in and out and get this really nice. That's all been hit with a wire brush on the top and the bottom, so going well. Things are working out pretty good here. The ABS line goes around. I turned the steering hard driver so I could get in here good. You can see the caliper adapter bracket bolts. They're torqued to 125 foot-pounds. I'm going to be installing the pads now into the guides. We'll get those all nice. And then the pistons in the go position, the caliper to go over it.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Obviously. Run.
You can see the squealer on the inside pad. Very nice. Okay, the Steer Smarts tie rod is installed. This is torqued to 70 foot-pounds on the knuckle end on both sides. So now you'll see that the steering stabilizer is not installed because I need to put the tires on, put the weight of the vehicle. And with the weight of the vehicle, I've got to torque this track bar bracket right there. That's a 21 millimeter nut with a flag nut in the back. That's got to get torqued to 125 foot-pounds. The upper control arms, which you can get a look at one there, on both the frame side and the axle side, get torqued to 75 foot-pounds under the weight of the vehicle. And then the lower control arms under the weight of the vehicle in both the frame side and the axle side get torqued to 125 foot-pounds. So that needs to all be done. Then when that's done, I can mount the steering stabilizer on there and tie it into that clamp right there on the tie rod. All right, just pulled my driver's tire out from underneath the frame. I got to jack up the driver's side a little bit to get this on, so I'm going to mount this tire and get this side all set. All right, the tires are on. They need to be torqued. That's step one. And then we'll torque the control arms, upper and lower in the fronts, track bar bracket, install the steering stabilizer, then start this thing up. She hasn't ran in a couple months, and very gently pull her out and see what we have. Keeping in mind I have no rear shock. The shock hasn't come in. Might get it this week. Fox 2.0 bypass rear shock. Bought it from Off-Road Elements over in the eastern part of the state. So hopefully that comes soon. And got to get busy here. Still a lot to do. Then if that all works out well, I'll have to measure off the frame rail to the outside of the tires. Check my track bar bracket, which again I had to make an adjustment to make it fit. So still have a lot of tweaking to do, but hopefully we're doing okay. Extremely difficult to get the upper control arms. I got in there. There's one of them right there, 75 foot-pounds. Used a 3/8 18 millimeter socket with a 3/8 torque wrench. I was able to get the 75 foot-pounds on the uppers, but very difficult to get at. So believe it or not, it probably took an hour to torque the control arms for this JK on the ground under its weight. So the last thing I'm going to be working on is the track bar bracket stud / steering stabilizer. I got to get that torqued to 125 foot-pounds. Oh yeah, okay, you can see my TerraFlex 9550 steering stabilizer, the last one. Got a hole in it because of a bent tie rod, which I've since straightened. But you can see the stud there. So that's torqued through the track bar to a flag nut at 125 foot-pounds. So now that piece right there will thread over Then the steering stabilizer will come over here and go to the first hole on the left that you see right there. So we'll get the steering stabilizer all set next. 18 millimeter on this flange bolt. Basically, it just goes through the rubber grommet. No problem with that sway bar hanging down. I just got to get this nice and snug, and then I'll lift the sway bar up and get it on the track bar. Okay, you can see that the steering stabilizer is attached to the clamp on the Steer Smart's tie rod. Got that flange nut all tightened up, got this tightened up. And basically what you like to do is split the difference, kind of pull the, basically it's a shock absorber, pull it out halfway so that when you turn hard passenger, you don't damage it. You've got room for the stem. And then when you turn far driver, you want to be able to extend it without maxing it out. So this was the setting that I had before in the past, and it worked good. So I think I'm okay there. Recon 1 is running. Sadly, the battery was dead. I guess I'm not surprised. There's several different loads on it. It's been sitting for, I'm going to say 9-10 weeks. So I jumped it off the Jeep Compass. We're going to let that thing run. I'm going to pump the brakes. Obviously, I got new brake pads. And gently pull this vehicle out and see how it feels. A lot of work. Steering wheel is way off, but that's something I can adjust with the drag link. Yeah, you know, things are different. The track bar I had to lengthen. You know, maybe the new track bar bracket was in a different location. But clearly it was. I had to lengthen it about 1/4 of an inch. So I got to get to the bottom of this and make some adjustments. Okay, I'm underneath the Jeep. Clearly having to lengthen my track bar to fit in this bracket screwed up the position of the vehicle over the frames. So I took some measurements. I was off a little bit. I lengthened the track bar. I believe I lengthened it. Well, basically what I did is I pulled the body over to the driver's side a little bit. So actually maybe I shortened it, but I'm trying to measure off the frame rail or the shock tower to the outside of the tire and get an accurate measurement, which I believe I have. That's why my drag link needed to be adjusted so much. Now I'm sure I'm gonna have to readjust my drag link. I guarantee you my steering is messed up now. Okay, once again, I was off quite a bit. So I'm measuring off of this piece of steel here attached to the frame. I'm measuring horizontally across there, right across the tire, right here to this line. And I was off 1/2 inch. Now I've got 20 1/4. This is the passenger side. Off of that piece of frame to the edge of the tire. And I have the same on the driver's side. So what happened was by me adjusting the drag link when I installed it to match the new location, not the drag link, the track bar. For me installing the new track bar at the new track bar location, I had to lengthen it. And what it did is it screwed my steering up. So then I did it backwards. I ended up adjusting my drag link where it was straight, but then the body wasn't straight over the frame rails. So now I've got the body over the frame rails. I basically had to readjust the drag link right there, undo it, and get that lined up. So I'm gonna take it for another test drive. Hopefully it's better than it was. Should be. These are the kind of things you gotta expect when you have all these different steering components tore apart, new track bar bracket, slight different variations in locations and so forth. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. Probably going to take a little while to work the bug outs. I also thought that perhaps my brand new rear brake pads might be adjusted a little too tight, but they'll seat themselves soon enough. Outside of that, I took it for a short drive. It didn't seem too bad. Hopefully this next one's a little better. I was low on gas. This gas has been sitting in here for a couple of months anyway, so I got the siphon going. So I'll put 5 gallons in there, and then we'll take it for a test drive. You know, I knew this was going to be a work in progress, and I knew there was going to be a lot of things to adjust and tweak after doing so much work. So a little bit at a time, but it's nearing the end for today. I'm running out of steam. Well, all I'm trying to do is get this thing to steer fairly straight, and know, adjusted the track bar, the drag link. I don't know. Hopefully I made some improvements. Clearly it was off a little bit, so I'm just trying to make it right. All right, so looking at the steering wheel going straight, that's not too bad. So I'm gonna take her down the road for a couple of miles, see how she feels. Okay, all in all, a pretty nice run. Steering wheel was straight, drove nice. Still could be adjustments on the trail, especially in regards to the track bar bracket bolts for the adjustment sleeve. You can see them back there. If I have to, I could take the steering stabilizer off and rotate them up, but we'll give this a shot. Seems pretty good. Not bad. Just took it for about a 3-mile run. It was an improvement over the last time, so I think it was good that I adjusted the track bar and got the tires, basically got the body centered over the frame, so that worked out good. Then I had to readjust the drag link and get the steering wheel correct again, so that was my mistake. But the e-brakes are already settling in. The brakes are nice, they're quiet. I haven't driven the Jeep in a while, so it's a little awkward, but this was a big step, getting this axle back in place. It's a little flighty on the road, and that's most likely because I have no rear shock absorber here. Right there, no shock on the driver's side. So I got a brand new one coming, should be here anytime. You can see the passenger one there, that'll help. So not bad, not bad. It was very difficult at times, torquing the track bar brackets, torquing the control arms, but all in all, not bad. I have not tested the 4-wheel drive. I have not tested the lockers. That'll have to be tested, but today I've been at it for almost 8 hours and 3 hours yesterday. So by myself in the garage, on my back, underneath it, with it up on the jack stands, the added weight and awkwardness of the truss and the seat gussets, just a lot of different things, a lot of things to pay attention to. And all in all, though, I'm really happy with it. So that's going to be it for this whole axle upgrade. In my opinion, is a wrap. Might just be a little fine tuning from time to time. The Jeep needs some TLC for sure, but I'm really happy. Recon 1 sitting in the barn, turned around, waiting for a new rear shock. Not bad. Drove pretty good, but you can see she needs a lot of love. Man.
I mean, if you're too far front forward.
Yeah, I got to get this Jeep detailed. She deserves better than this. It's just things got away from me with all the wheeling last year, and then I had the axle project, so we'll get it. No cigars in there, that's not good. I think I have one left. All right, not bad at all.